Chapter 1, The Night It Started. The wind carried a strange kind of cold through northern Virginia that night, cold enough to make the shingles groan on the old McAllister house, cold enough to make the oaks outside whisper in a language nobody had heard before. The town of Harpswell Ridge, population barely 3,000, had seen storms, hurricanes, even the occasional tornado warning. But nobody had ever felt this kind of cold. It wasn't winter. It wasn't even close. It was late September. And yet, around 11:47 p.m., the temperature dropped so sharply that pipes burst across the east side of town. Dogs howled, windows rattled, and for a moment, just a moment, the entire town's power grid flickered into total darkness. All except for one house. The McAllister house. The two-story Victorian at the end of Renfield Road glowed with a faint, pulsing amber light from the upstairs window, like a heartbeat trapped inside the walls. Inside, Emily Carter, age 27, freelance photographer, stood frozen at the top of the staircase, staring at the source of the glow, a room that had been locked for more than 20 years. A room nobody in town talked about anymore. A room her grandmother had warned her about since childhood. Emily had never believed in curses. But she believed in locked doors, especially when she was holding the key in her hand. She didn't remember picking it up. She didn't remember walking up the stairs. She didn't remember opening the door to the room. All she remembered was waking up moments earlier gasping for air, as if someone had whispered her name right inside her ear. Emily. A voice like breath on glass. A voice she recognized but couldn't place. And now the door. This door. The one her late grandmother had said should never be opened. Was standing wide open. Amber light spilled across the hallway carpet like liquid fire. Emily stepped inside. Chapter 2, The Room That Didn't Belong. The room was warm. Too warm. Like a greenhouse left under the summer sun. But it wasn't the heat that made Emily's stomach twist, it was the smell. Jasmine. And something metallic underneath. Like rust. Or dried blood. The room itself looked untouched. As if 20 years hadn't passed. As if dust dared not settle here. As if the house, or someone inside it, had been keeping the space clean. There was a single wooden desk, a small brass lamp still glowing softly, and a window overlooking Renfield Road. But what caught her eyes was the journal lying open on the desk, its pages fluttering even though the air was completely still. A name was written in looping handwriting across the page. Hannah McAllister, September 29, 2004. Emily froze. Hannah McAllister. Her aunt. Missing since that date. Declared dead in 2012. Her grandmother had always insisted something else had happened. Something the town wouldn't understand. Emily reached out and touched the page. The ink was still wet. Her breath caught in her throat. That's impossible. Before she could move, before she could breathe, the warm air in the room turned ice cold, frosting the window in seconds. The amber light flickered, once, twice, and then slammed into darkness. Emily stumbled backward, bumping into the doorframe. Then the whisper came again. Emily. This time from directly behind her. She spun around. Nobody. But the hallway light flickered violently, like someone was walking beneath it. Like a shadow was passing even though the floor was empty. Emily backed into the room again, heart hammering. She grabbed the journal off the desk and held it to her chest. The moment she touched it, the house shuddered. The temperature plummeted again. The wind outside roared. The front door slammed open downstairs. Something had entered the house. Or, something had finally come back. Chapter 3, Sheriff Dalton arrives. At 12:06 a.m., Sheriff Mark Dalton was halfway through a lukewarm cup of coffee when the emergency line lit up. A dispatcher's voice crackled through. Multiple callers reporting a temperature anomaly, bursting pipes, and someone said the McAllister place is glowing like a jack-o'-lantern. Should we send someone? Dalton sighed. Harpswell Ridge didn't get real crime. Missing cats. Noise complaints. Tourists getting lost. A glowing house was new. I'm on my way, he muttered, grabbing his hat. His cruiser rolled down Renfield Road, tires crunching over early autumn leaves. As he approached the McAllister house, he noticed two things immediately. The lights weren't glowing anymore. The front door was wide open. Dalton rested a hand on his holster as he stepped out. Emily, he called. You in there? No answer. He'd known Emily since she was a kid, quiet, smart, camera always around her neck. After her grandmother's death, she inherited the house. Moved in 2 weeks earlier. Nothing unusual until tonight. He stepped inside. The air hit him first. Cold enough to sting his lungs. Emily? A thud upstairs. Dalton unfastened his holster. Not drawing his gun yet, but ready. He moved up the staircase slowly. Halfway up, he saw her. Emily stood at the end of the hallway, clutching something tight to her chest. Her eyes were wide, almost wild. Emily? You okay? She shook her head. Someone's in the house. Dalton stiffened. Where? She lifted a trembling finger and pointed to the room behind her. The room nobody was supposed to enter. The journal, she whispered. It wasn't finished. She wrote something before she disappeared. Dalton stepped closer. What did it say? Emily swallowed hard. She said she wasn't alone. The house creaked. Floorboards behind Dalton groaned. Something moved just at the edge of his peripheral vision. He spun around, gun drawn, aiming into the empty hallway. Who's there? Silence. Then, tap, tap, tap. Footsteps. Coming from downstairs. Slow. Deliberate. Dalton motioned for Emily to stay behind him as he descended the stairs, gun sweeping side to side. Halfway down, he froze. Someone was standing in the living room. A silhouette. Unmoving. Facing the wall. Dalton's voice dropped to a whisper. Sir, ma'am, turn around slowly. The figure didn't move. Emily, halfway down the stairs now, inhaled sharply. That's not a person, she whispered. Dalton swallowed. What do you mean it's not a? The silhouette flickered. Like a bad reflection on a broken TV screen. Then it vanished. Gone. Instantly. Dalton stumbled backward, gripping the railing. What the hell? Emily clutched his arm. Sheriff, it's her. Dalton blinked. Who? Emily held up the journal. Hannah. Chapter 4, The First Message. They sat at the old kitchen table, Dalton rubbing his temples while Emily flipped through Hannah's journal with shaky hands. The pages were mostly blank, except the last few. And the writing. It wasn't normal writing. It slanted downward sharply, like the words were written in a hurry. Ink droplets stained the edges as if the pen kept jerking. Emily read aloud. September 29, 2004. Someone is in the house. They know my name. They know I can hear them. Dalton leaned closer. Emily, when's the last time anyone opened that room? Not since she disappeared. My grandmother locked it. She always said Hannah didn't go missing. She said Hannah was taken. Dalton raised an eyebrow. Taken by who? Emily's voice dropped to barely a whisper. She never said. Just that it wasn't human. The windows rattled. Both of them jumped. Emily continued. The voice is getting closer. It only speaks after dark. It wants me to write. It wants someone to find this. If anyone reads this, don't stay in the house after midnight. Dalton exhaled. Great advice. Wish she wrote that on the front door. Emily swallowed and turned the page. One final line was written in thick, desperate strokes. It isn't a voice at all. It's a memory. Dalton frowned. What the hell does that mean? Before Emily could answer, a loud thud echoed from upstairs. A second thud. Then a third. Slow. Heavier than footsteps. Like something dragging across the floor. Then the voice returned. Soft. Right above them. Emily. Dalton stood so fast his chair toppled. That's it, we're leaving. Emily didn't argue. She grabbed the journal and followed him to the door. But when they reached the threshold, the door slammed shut by itself. Locks clicked. All three. One after the other. Dalton grabbed the handle, pulling hard. It didn't budge. Emily, step back. She did. Dalton kicked the door, hard. Nothing. Then the whisper came again. Not from above. Not from behind. But from inside the room with them. A voice neither male nor female. A voice stretched thin. A voice that sounded like it was being spoken by someone who had forgotten how to use a mouth. Stay! Emily screamed. Dalton fired a shot toward the hallway, bang, though he knew, deep down, a bullet wouldn't matter. The house trembled. Lights flickered. And one by one, every window in the house frosted over again. Emily felt something brush against her hair, cold as a corpse's hand. Dalton grabbed her wrist. We're getting out, he growled. I don't care if I have to shoot every damn window in this place. But the voice only laughed. A sound like cracking ice. You can't leave. Not yet. Chapter 5, The House Remembers. Dalton's grip tightened around Emily's wrist as the house groaned again. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't settling wood. The sound was too dynamic, too aware, like the structure itself was breathing. Emily, he whispered, when's the last time this house did something like this? Never. Your grandmother never mentioned? No. Emily snapped. She just told me to lock that room and never ask why. The whisper, icy and elastic, slid across the kitchen walls. You ask now? Emily backed against the refrigerator, her breath shaking as Dalton positioned himself between her and the darkness pooling at the end of the hallway. He tried the back door. Locked. He checked the windows. Frozen shut. He pulled his radio from his belt. Dead. Static, but not the normal kind. Not fuzzy or crackling. This sounded like someone breathing into his ear. He dropped the radio. Emily's trembling fingers opened the journal again, because that was the only thing in the house that seemed to respond to them. She flipped to the last page. The ink changed. Right in front of her. Fresh words bleeding through the paper, forming themselves slowly. Dalton's eyes widened. "Emily, tell me I'm not seeing that." She didn't answer. She couldn't. The new line read, "You opened the door." She didn't finish. Dalton felt something cold touch the back of his neck. He spun around. Nothing but shadows. But the smell. A faint sweetness, jasmine again. Followed by iron. "Emily," he whispered, "why jasmine?" Her mouth went dry. "Hannah used to wear jasmine oil." Dalton cursed under his breath. This wasn't a break-in. This wasn't a haunt. This was personal. The journal fluttered violently as if someone else was turning the pages from inside. They stopped on an entry dated one day after Hannah disappeared. But the ink was different. Messier. Like a child scribbling. Emily read slowly. "The house remembers. The house keeps what it's given." Dalton's jaw clenched. Given? What the hell was given? Emily shook her head. "I don't." Slam. The basement door at the far end of the kitchen burst open. A gust of frigid air blasted into the room. The stairwell was pitch black. Too black. Like the darkness itself had depth, thick, heavy, suffocating. A shape moved within it. Low to the ground. Dragging. Emily grabbed Dalton's arm. "Don't go near that." Dalton raised his gun. "Whatever's down there is coming up if we don't stop it." But before he could take a step, a hand, small, cold, and unmistakably human, reached up from the basement darkness and gripped the edge of the doorframe. Emily screamed. Dalton fired. Bang! Bang! 2 bullets vanished into blackness, absorbed like drops of ink in water. The hand retreated slowly. The basement door slammed shut. Silence. Then, tap, tap, tap. Soft knocking. From the inside of the basement door. Emily pulled Dalton away from it. "This house, it's not keeping us in. It's keeping something else out." Dalton stared at her. "You're telling me that thing, whatever it is, doesn't belong to the house?" Emily shook her head. "No. It's been waiting." The knocking stopped. Then a voice, not the whisper from earlier, but a girl's voice, echoed faintly from behind the door. "Emily, don't open the basement. Please." Emily's legs nearly gave out. Dalton grabbed her shoulders. "Who was that?" Emily's eyes filled with tears. "That was Hannah." Chapter 6, The Sheriff's Doubt. Dalton had seen his share of strange things during 15 years as sheriff, but nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared him for a missing woman's voice coming from a sealed basement. He paced the kitchen, gun still drawn, as Emily clutched the journal like a lifeline. "I don't understand," Dalton muttered. "If that was Hannah, is she alive? Is she trapped? Is she—" "Not alive," Emily whispered. Dalton stopped. "What?" Emily smoothed her thumb over the journal's last page. "My grandmother always said Hannah wasn't gone. She said she was in between." Dalton rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Emily, ghosts aren't real." Emily pointed at the journal as more ink bled through onto the paper. "Then explain that." Dalton watched as a sentence formed slowly. Don't trust the walls. Oh great, Dalton muttered. Now even the wallpaper's against us. Emily's voice trembled. Sheriff, what if Hannah didn't disappear outside this house? What if she disappeared inside it? Dalton opened his mouth to respond. Boom! A thunderous crash upstairs shook dust from the ceiling. Dalton raised his gun again. That came from the room, the locked one. Emily's grip tightened on the journal. It's angry that we took it. What? Hannah's journal. It was hers. This house, whatever part of it is alive, it doesn't want us reading it. Dalton headed toward the stairs. Stay close. Emily followed, but each step groaned underfoot as though resisting their weight. Halfway up, the lights flickered violently. The house exhaled. Not the wind. Not the plumbing. The house. Emily grabbed Dalton's sleeve. Sheriff, don't look at the walls. Dalton frowned. Why? But it was too late. He looked and saw faces. Faint, stretching across the wallpaper like pressed flowers under glass, eyes closed, mouths open as if silently screaming. Dalton stumbled so hard he nearly fell down the stairs. Jesus, Emily! I told you not to look. What the hell are they? But Emily already knew. Memories, she whispered. This house keeps memories. Dalton regained his footing and swallowed hard. We need to get out. Now. Not later. Not after reading more ghost messages. Now. Emily nodded. But the doors. We'll break a window if we have to. But as they reached the top of the stairs, a cold laugh rolled across the hallway. Break what is mine. Dalton fired a shot into the hallway instinctively. The bullet never hit the wall. It bent, curved, and dropped to the floor like a piece of soft clay. Dalton stared in horror. Emily, this house is bending metal. The laugh again. Stay. Emily whispered, Sheriff, it doesn't want us. It wants something from us. Dalton muttered, like what? But Emily didn't answer. Because she suddenly realized. The house hadn't attacked them. It hadn't harmed them. It hadn't even tried. It was only stopping them from leaving. It wanted them here. But why? She opened the journal. A fresh line of ink appeared immediately as if the house had been waiting. Finish what she couldn't. Emily's breath hitched. Finish, what? The journal answered. The story. Dalton blinked. What story? Hannah's journal? What does it want you to write? Emily read the next line aloud. The house can't keep a memory without a writer. Dalton turned pale. Emily, it wants you. Emily's hands shook so hard she nearly dropped the journal. No. No. I'm not. The whisper slid through the hallway again, tender and cold. Write for me. Chapter 7, The Memory Room. Dalton led the way cautiously toward Hannah's room, the amber-lit one, which now sat in total darkness. The door was open just a crack. Emily clutched his jacket. Sheriff, I don't want to go in there. I know. But whatever this thing wants, from you or the journal, we're not getting answers downstairs. Emily hesitated, then nodded. Dalton pushed the door gently. It swung open on silent hinges. The air inside was warm again. Too warm. Like standing in the breath of something watching them. The desk lamp flickered on by itself. The journal hunched like a cat against Emily's chest, the spine curling. And then, the walls changed. Where wallpaper had been moments ago, now there were pictures. Hundreds. Thousands. Polaroids pinned in perfectly straight lines from floor to ceiling. Dalton stepped forward carefully. "Are these?" Emily's voice broke. "They're all her." Every photograph showed Hannah. Different ages. Different outfits. Different years. But all the photos had one thing in common. In every single one, she was facing away from the camera. Never turned. Never smiling. Never aware. Dalton inspected one photo. "This is impossible," he murmured. "These pictures, they span decades. She wasn't even alive in some of these eras." Emily stared, wide-eyed. "Sheriff, these aren't photos taken of her. They're photos taken by the house." Dalton whipped around. "What?" Emily pointed to the ceiling. A single Polaroid camera, ancient, yellowed, dusty, hung suspended by a chain. The lens pointed downward. Dalton stared. "You're telling me that thing's been taking pictures for 70 years? Emily nodded slowly. "Or longer." A Polaroid spit out of the camera suddenly, fluttering down like a dead leaf. Dalton caught it. The image developed in seconds. His face. Right now. Standing in this room. Behind him. A shadow. Tall. Bent. Hands touching the ceiling. Dalton spun around, raising his gun. Nothing. But the floorboards groaned as if something enormous had just stepped away. Emily whispered, "Sheriff, this room isn't about Hannah." Dalton's jaw clenched. "Then what the hell is it?" Emily lifted the journal again. The ink started forming fresh words. "Where memories go when they aren't finished." Emily stepped closer to the wall of photographs. Her hand hovered inches away. "Sheriff, every memory captured here belongs to someone who disappeared." Dalton froze. "Are you saying Hannah wasn't the only one?" Emily's voice trembled. "She was the last one." The journal flipped violently to the back cover. A final message burned into the leather like a brand. "Until now." Dalton grabbed Emily's arm. "Emily, we're leaving. I don't care what the house wants. But the doors. We'll blow out a damn window if we have to." Click. The door to the room shut behind them. Dalton lunged for the knob. Locked. He kicked it. Didn't budge. Emily looked back at the photographs. Some of them were changing. Faces turning toward the camera. Eyes opening. Mouths stretching. Dalton shouted, "Emily, don't look." But she couldn't look away. Because in one of the photographs, a fresh one, still warm from development, she saw herself, standing exactly where she stood now, holding the journal. But in the photo, she wasn't alone. Something stood behind her. Something with too many limbs. And no face at all. Dalton grabbed her. "We have to go. Now." But the whisper, soft and final, filled the room. "You opened the door. Now finish the story." Chapter 8, The Walls Start Talking. The room tightened around them. Not literally, Dalton checked the dimensions twice, eyes darting like a cornered animal, but the air shrank, growing denser, heavier, hotter. Emily felt it first. A weight on her chest, pressing like a dozen invisible hands. "Sheriff, it doesn't want us to leave." Dalton kept his back against the door, trying again to kick it open. Nothing. As if the wood had fused into the frame. "It's a house, Emily. Wood. Nails. Hinges. It can't." Before he finished the sentence, the walls around them rippled. Not a trick of the light. Not imagination. They moved like living skin beneath a heartbeat. Polaroid photographs fluttered. Some fell from the walls like dead leaves. The whisper slid through the room, threading between their heartbeats. "Right." Emily held the journal tighter. Dalton raised his gun. "Show yourself. Whoever, whatever, you are." The house answered. A crack split across the ceiling. Slow, deliberate. As if something above them dragged a massive claw through the plaster. Dust rained down. Emily coughed, holding the journal against her chest. Dalton placed a protective hand on her shoulder. "We're getting out of here. I'll shoot through the wall if I have to." Emily shook her head violently. "No. Sheriff, don't. Not the walls." Dalton narrowed his eyes. "Why the hell not?" Emily pointed at a photograph on the floor. He picked it up. The image showed the wall across from him. But it wasn't made of plaster in the picture. It was made of flesh. Pale, veined, sweating. Like human skin stretched too thin. Dalton dropped the photo instantly. "What the hell kind of place is this?" Emily swallowed. "My grandmother always said the house was built wrong." "Wrong how?" "She said it was born, not built." Dalton flinched. "Don't say that." "Don't." Thud. A heavy step directly above them. Not pacing. Not walking. Positioned. Waiting. Emily whispered, "Sheriff. I think it's on the ceiling." Dalton aimed up. The ceiling groaned. Something pressed against it from the other side. A shape formed under the plaster, large, shifting, unnatural. Then, tap. A fingertip pressed through. Just one. Poking through the plaster, stretching it like fabric, cracking a small hole. Emily screamed. Dalton grabbed her wrist. "Move." He pulled her toward the desk. The creature above dragged its finger across the ceiling, cracking plaster in a long, slow arc. A circle. It was drawing something. A doorway. A way in. Emily stared in horror. "It's coming through." Dalton looked at the windows. Still frosted. Still sealed. "And we still can't get out," he muttered. "Damn it, Emily, is there anything in that journal to stop this thing?" Emily flipped through madly as dust rained around them. Suddenly, a page she didn't remember seeing before appeared. A drawing. Crude, desperate. But clear. A girl, Hannah, sitting at this same desk, writing. Behind her, something massive looming, faceless, hands reaching. Under the drawing. It only stops when the story ends. Emily whispered, "Sheriff, we have to finish Hannah's story." Dalton shouted over the cracking ceiling. "We don't even know what the story is." Emily placed her hand on the page. "No. We have to find out." Chapter 9, The First Memory. There was no warning when it happened. The room didn't shake. No wind. No flicker of lights. Just a blink. One blink. And they were no longer in the room. Dalton cursed loudly. What the? Where are we? Emily spun in place. They stood in the same room. Same layout. Same furniture. Except everything was younger. Cleaner. Dust-free. Colors vibrant, sunlit, alive. The house was normal. Emily's breath caught. This is a memory. Dalton touched the desk. You're calling this normal? This is time travel, Emily. No. Not travel. The house is showing us what it remembers. Footsteps approached. Dalton grabbed Emily and pulled her behind the door. A teenage girl entered the room. Hannah. Alive. Breathing. Unaware. She sat at the desk and opened the same journal Emily now held in her hands. Her pen shook. She whispered, "Please stop talking to me, please." Emily felt her stomach twist. "Sheriff," she heard the voice too. Hannah kept writing. "I didn't want to open the door. I didn't want to hear you. I didn't want to remember." Dalton whispered, she wasn't writing for herself, she was writing to IT. Hannah froze in place. Her body stiffened as a shadow passed behind her. Long. Crooked. As if stitched together from pieces of different silhouettes. It leaned close to Hannah's ear. Emily clutched Dalton. But Hannah didn't scream. She just cried. "Please. I don't want to write anymore." The shadow's hand rested on her shoulder. Hannah jerked violently. Eyes wide, mouth open. But no sound came out. Emily whispered, horrified. "It's feeding on her memories." Dalton whispered, "What does that mean?" Emily answered softly, "It's taking pieces of her life, turning them into pictures, into walls, into this house." Dalton swallowed. "This house is built on people." The shadow turned. It faced them. Dalton raised his gun on instinct, though he knew it wouldn't matter. The creature took one slow, impossible step across the room. Before the memory shattered like glass, Emily dropped to her knees. Dalton grabbed her. "Emily, are you okay?" She pressed a hand to her chest. It took something from me." Dalton stiffened. "What did it take?" She didn't answer. Because she didn't know. But she could feel the emptiness. Chapter 10, The Basement Truth. They were back in the house. The real house. Rotting. Breathing. Waiting. The ceiling hung cracked and broken above them. But the creature had retreated for now. Dalton checked his gun. No bullets left that mattered. "Emily," he said quietly. "We have two choices. Finish the story. Or blow the basement door open and see what your aunt is trying to warn us about." Emily wiped tears from her cheeks. "I'm scared of both options." Dalton nodded. "Me too." But the house gave them no choice. The journal flipped open on its own to a blank page. Ink began forming something. Not words. A map. A map of the house. The basement circled. Emily whispered, "The ending is down there." Dalton cracked his knuckles. "Well, let's go ruin this thing's night." But Emily didn't move. Her eyes were locked on the journal. "Sheriff." Dalton turned. "What?" "There's something else written." Dalton stepped closer. Fresh ink bled through. "She's still alive." Dalton's jaw dropped. What? Who? Hannah? Emily shook her head slowly. No. Not Hannah. More ink formed. Letters twisting like they were being written by a shaking hand. Someone else the town forgot. Dalton stepped back. Forgot? What does that mean? Emily swallowed. There was another writer before Hannah. Dalton paled. And the house kept them. Chapter 11, The Forgotten Writer. Dalton stared at the words bleeding through the journal page. Someone else the town forgot. Emily whispered. There was another writer. Before Hannah. The house took them, and the town forgot they ever existed. Dalton crossed his arms, jaw tight. That shouldn't be possible. People don't just get erased. Emily looked at him. Hannah did. Dalton fell silent. Because she was right. People in Harpswell Ridge never talked about Hannah unless Emily brought her up. Old yearbooks never listed her name. Town records showed no missing persons report for her in 2004. As far as official history, Hannah McAllister never existed. So if the house had the power to erase someone, then how many had it taken? Emily placed the journal on the desk. More ink formed. Under the map of the house, a second line appeared. Before you go to the basement, know who came first. A date formed. 1961. Dalton frowned. That was long before you or your aunt. Emily nodded slowly. My grandmother moved here in 1963. She always said the house was already cursed. So the first writer must have lived here even before that, Dalton muttered. But why is the house showing us now? The journal answered. Because you're next. Dalton swore violently. Oh hell no, no. We're not playing this game. Emily's voice trembled. Sheriff, it doesn't want us to die. It wants us to write. Dalton stared at her. That's worse. Emily looked at the map again. The basement pulsed faintly in red ink, like a beating heart. Sheriff, whatever happened to the first writer? Whatever happened to Hannah? The truth is down there. Dalton checked his belt. Let's find something to break that basement door. Sledgehammer, axe, something. Emily nodded. But before they could move, slam! The floor shook. The basement door flew open. On its own. A cold mist rolled out, carrying the faint scent of rust and jasmine. Dalton raised his gun, empty though it was. Emily, behind me. She stepped close. A single, soft voice drifted up from the basement. A child's voice. Please, don't leave me down here. Emily froze. Her breath caught in her throat. That wasn't Hannah. Dalton's hand tightened on her wrist. Whatever was down there, whatever had been waiting since 1961. It knew they were coming. Chapter 12, Descent. The basement steps creaked beneath their feet, each groan echoing through the hollow darkness. Dalton led with his flashlight. The beam barely cut through the air, swallowed by shadows that seemed thicker than they should be. Emily kept one hand on the wall, the other on the journal. Every now and then, she felt something warm pulse under the wallpaper, like a heartbeat. Dalton glanced back. You okay? No. Good. Me neither. When they reached the bottom step, the basement expanded around them, far larger than it should have been. Dalton whispered. This wasn't here in the floor plan. Emily's flashlight found the old boiler in the corner. Pipes. Rust. Dust. Normal. Then her beam shifted. And nothing was normal anymore. The wall opposite them wasn't brick. It was wood. Old wooden boards. Vertical. A hidden door. Emily approached slowly. The boards were painted with markings. Names. Dozens of them. Each name crossed out with a single slash of red ink. Dalton lifted the flashlight higher. Emily, look at the dates. Each name had a year beneath it. Each one was followed by a red slash. Erased. Forgotten. Emily whispered. Sheriff, this is a list. Dalton's voice cracked. A list of what? Emily pointed to the bottom. A fresh space. Blank. Then, ink began forming. Right in front of them. 2019. Emily's heart dropped. Sheriff, that's the year I moved back to town. Dalton's hands shook. Emily, this house has had you marked since before your grandmother died. Emily stepped back. But the ink continued forming. Under the year. Emily Carter. Dalton grabbed her arm. No. No. Don't look at it. But the house wasn't finished. Below Emily's name. Not chosen yet. Dalton looked stunned. Chosen for what? Emily didn't want to answer. Her entire body trembled. Because she finally understood. This wasn't a list of victims. It was a list of writers. Chosen. Used. Consumed. Dalton stepped in front of the wooden wall and kicked it. Hard. A crack split the board. Dalton kicked again. And again. Finally, the boards broke inward, revealing a narrow passage behind them. A tunnel. Cold air breathed from within. Emily held the journal close. Hannah's final entry glowed faintly. Don't trust what calls your name. Dalton raised his flashlight. You ready? No. Good. We go anyway. They stepped inside. Chapter 13, The First Writer's Room. The passage opened into a chamber. Small. Square. Stone walls. A single wooden table sat in the center. A chair. A lamp. A journal. Dust and cobwebs coated everything but the journal. It looked untouched. Pristine. Emily approached slowly. Sheriff. I think this belonged to the first writer. Dalton stayed close. Check it. Emily opened the cover. Inside was a name written in beautiful cursive. Margaret Hale. Emily's voice cracked. She was real. She lived in this town. She was a teacher in the 60s. My grandmother mentioned her once. Dalton frowned. I don't remember anyone named Margaret Hale. That's the point, Sheriff. Emily flipped the page. The first entry. July 4th, 1961. I moved into the McAllister house yesterday. It feels alive. It whispers. Dalton muttered, great start. Emily continued reading. At first, I thought the house was lonely. It wanted someone to keep its memories. It wanted a writer. Dalton's eyes widened. A writer? Emily nodded. The next entry. It asked me to help. It begged me. It cried. I wrote for it. Emily whispered, horrified. She thought she was helping. Dalton clenched his fists. What happened next? Emily flipped to the next page. A short entry. It doesn't want stories. It wants pieces of me. Emily almost dropped the journal. Dalton grabbed her shoulder. Emily, stop if you need to. But she shook her head. This is what the house wants us to read. She turned the page. A final entry. The writing frantic, slanted, terrified. It took my memories. It took my name. I can feel myself fading. If anyone finds this, don't finish my story. Emily's breath caught. But the house told us to finish the story. Dalton shook his head. No. The house wants to erase you like it erased her. Emily stepped back, shaking. Then something shifted behind them. Dalton spun around with his flashlight. A figure stood at the end of the tunnel. Small. Female. Hands pale and trembling. Emily whispered, "Hannah?" The figure stepped closer. No. Not Hannah. Older clothing. Hair curled in a 60s style. Eyes hollow. Margaret Hale. She opened her mouth. But no sound came out. She reached a shaking finger toward Emily and wrote a single word in the dust on the floor. Run. Dalton grabbed Emily just as the walls around them began to pulse like a beating heart. The house was waking up. The house was hungry. And it had finally found them. Chapter 14, When the House Starts Hunting. Dalton pulled Emily backwards so fast her feet barely touched the stone floor. The passage behind them throbbed, darkness moving like muscle under skin. Margaret Hale stood motionless, her eyes hollow, her fingers still pointing toward the exit. But as the house's heartbeat grew louder, Margaret flickered. Her body glitched. One moment 3 feet away. The next moment inches from Emily's face. Emily stumbled backward with a strangled cry. Dalton shoved himself between them, gun raised instinctively though he knew bullets meant nothing here. Margaret didn't attack. Didn't speak. She simply lifted her hand and pointed again. Past them. Toward the wooden boards they had broken through. Escape. But behind Margaret, deeper in the chamber, something stirred. Dalton saw it in his peripheral vision. A swelling shadow clinging to the ceiling. Slowly unfolding itself like a waking spider. Emily felt it too. Her breath stopped cold. Sheriff, it's coming. Dalton grabbed her wrist. We're leaving. Right now. Margaret Hale faded. Her body dissolving into dust. Her final warning lingering in the air like a ghostly aftertaste. Run. They ran. The tunnel warped behind them, walls narrowing, breathing, pulsing. As if the house itself was contracting around them. From the darkness behind, a sound echoed. A scrape. A slow, deliberate drag. Something huge pulling itself across the stone floor. Emily's heart hammered wildly. Sheriff, it's following us. I know. Dalton shoved Emily through the broken boards first. As she crawled through, a hand, massive, gray, thin as bone but impossibly long, shot through the darkness, swiping inches from her ankle. Emily screamed. Dalton didn't hesitate, he grabbed her waistband and hauled her through like she weighed nothing. He spun around immediately. Bang! He fired into the opening. The shadow reeled back with a shriek that sounded like metal being torn apart. Dalton didn't wait. He grabbed Emily's hand and ran. The basement around them shook violently. Pipes burst. Stone cracked. Lights exploded overhead. The house wasn't just awake. The house was furious. Chapter 15, Names on the Wall. They reached the main basement chamber again. Dust poured from the ceiling. Wood splintered. The temperature plummeted. Emily clutched the journal so tightly her knuckles went white. Dalton pointed toward the stairs. Go! But as Emily stepped forward, the wooden wall of names began to change. Names uncrossed themselves. Years rearranged. Letters scrambled. Emily froze, staring in horror. The list wasn't a record. It was rewriting itself. Dalton yelled, "Emily, move!" But she couldn't. Because she saw her own name again. Not written in fresh ink this time, but carved deeply into the wood. Emily Carter, 2019, in progress. Dalton grabbed her shoulder but she pulled away, stepping closer despite herself. More names carved themselves below hers. Dalton Hart, 2025, pending. He stopped breathing. Emily, that's my name. Emily whispered. It marked you the second you stepped inside. The letters beneath his name bled slowly into new shapes. Writer's assistant. Dalton swore violently. Oh hell no. I'm not becoming this thing's secretary. But Emily's name began changing too. The carved letters shifted, elongated, twisted. Primary writer. Dalton shook her shoulders. Emily, look at me. Focus. What does that mean? Emily's lip trembled. It means the house doesn't kill writers immediately. Dalton frowned. Then what does it do? Emily whispered. It keeps them. The wooden carvings pulsed like the surface of water. Dalton grabbed her wrist. We're leaving. Now. But the stairs behind them shattered. Wood exploding upward like something underneath had detonated. The passageway collapsed. Emily screamed, stumbling backward. Dalton shielded her as debris rained down. A voice drifted through the dust. Deep, layered, vibrating through the walls. Writers, stay. Dalton aimed blindly into the haze. Not today. But the house didn't care. The dust settled slowly, revealing a new staircase forming itself in the far corner. Twisted. Crooked. Leading upward into total darkness. Emily clutched Dalton's arm. The house, it's making a new exit. Dalton shook his head. No. It's leading us where it wants. Not where we want. But Emily pointed at the journal. Fresh ink bled into the page. Go up. Dalton narrowed his eyes. Do not trust that thing. Emily turned the journal. Another line appeared. Hannah went up. Dalton's breath hitched. Emily, she didn't survive. Emily's voice cracked. She didn't finish the story. Dalton swallowed hard. Then we finish it. But on our terms. Emily nodded. And together, they stepped toward the twisting staircase. Just as something enormous slammed into the basement door behind them. Splintering wood. Shriek echoing through the chamber. Time was up. They climbed. Chapter 16, The Attic of Unwritten Endings. The staircase wasn't normal. Every step shifted underfoot. Sometimes wood. Sometimes metal. Sometimes carpet. As if taken from different decades of the house's life. Dalton kept a tight grip on Emily's wrist. Don't let go. No matter what. Emily nodded, breath trembling. Halfway up, the lights flickered violently, shifting between warm, cold, warm, cold. And then, everything went black. Emily froze. Sheriff. Dalton's voice was close. I'm right here. Keep walking. She did. When their feet hit level ground again, a soft orange glow filled the air. They were in the attic. But the attic didn't look abandoned. It looked lived in. A typewriter sat in the corner. Stacks of paper everywhere. Photographs pinned to beams. Drawings tacked to the rafters. A child's bed lay in the corner, dusty but still made. Emily whispered. This was someone's room. Dalton scanned the walls. Or many someone's. Emily approached the typewriter. A sheet of yellowed paper sat in it. The last line read, "If you find this place, you are the next writer." Dalton swore under his breath. A second line typed itself slowly underneath. "Finish our story." Emily backed away from the typewriter. No. No. I'm not doing this. Dalton stood beside her. You're not alone. We'll figure out. Suddenly, the room shifted. The walls blurred. The temperature dropped so sharply Dalton saw his breath. Emily heard footsteps. Small. Rapid. Coming from behind an old dresser. She turned. And saw a little girl. 6 years old. Strawberry blonde. Wearing a faded dress. She held a pencil. And she was crying. Emily gasped. Who are you? The little girl lifted her chin, tears streaking dust down her face. My name is Lucy. Dalton frowned. I don't remember any kid named Lucy in this town. Emily whispered the truth. Because the house erased her. Lucy stepped closer. Her voice cracked. I tried to write what it wanted. But I was too small. It got mad. Dalton knelt beside her. What did it do to you? Lucy looked at the floor. It took my ending. Emily felt sick. Lucy, did the house keep you here? The girl nodded, tears falling. It keeps all of us. Emily froze. All of who? Lucy pointed behind her. And the shadows of the attic began to move. Silhouettes. Small, tall, adult, elderly. Dozens. Maybe more. The forgotten writers. Everyone the house had ever taken. Emily's pulse spiked. Sheriff, we're surrounded. Dalton stepped closer to her. Stay behind me. Lucy whispered. You can still leave. If you finish our story. The shadows drew closer. Emily shook her head violently. No. I'm not writing for this monster. The attic trembled. Lucy screamed. Then you will stay. Every shadow rushed forward. Dalton grabbed Emily. Run. They sprinted toward the far end of the attic. But the floor disappeared beneath them. And they fell. Fell through darkness. Fell into memories not their own. Fell into the heart of the house. Fell into the final chapter. Chapter 17, The Fall into Memory. Emily didn't feel the impact. Instead, she floated, suspended in a void of weightless darkness. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't scream. Voices swirled around her. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Whispering snippets of unfinished stories. I never meant to open the door. The house said it would help me remember. Please, somebody write it for me. Don't let it erase me. Emily clawed the air, trying to find something solid. Dalton's voice cut through the deafening whispers. Emily! Grab my hand. She reached blindly. Felt fingers. Then gravity caught them again. They slammed onto a cold surface. Dalton groaned, rolling over. Okay, that sucked. Emily coughed, forcing air back into her lungs. She sat up slowly. And froze. They were standing in a long hallway. But this wasn't the McAllister house. This was a hallway made of memories. Polaroids formed the walls. Thousands upon thousands. Each glowing faintly. Children. Adults. Old men. Teenage girls. All caught mid-scream. All captured at the moment they vanished from the world. Dalton rubbed his ribs, wincing. Where the hell are we? Emily whispered. The house is mine. The journal in her hand vibrated. Pages fluttered. A new line etched itself. You've reached the archive. Dalton frowned. Archive of what? Emily knew the answer before the ink appeared. Lost writers. Dalton's jaw clenched. So this place is the graveyard. The museum. Whatever it wants to call it. Emily shook her head. No. It's worse. She pointed at one Polaroid. It showed a young woman at a typewriter, Margaret Hale, sobbing as something enormous loomed behind her. The picture flickered. The woman's face changed. Hannah. Flicker. Lucy. Flicker. Emily. Dalton froze. Emily, your face is in that picture. Emily backed away quickly, shaking. No. 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 That means the house is planning it. It's already decided where I go. Dalton grabbed her shoulders firmly. No. We're ending this before that happens. But the hallway began to shift. Walls folding inward like pages turning. And the shadows of the forgotten writers emerged from the photographs. Margaret Hale. Hannah McAllister. Lucy. And dozens more. Each stepped out of their image, bodies warped slightly like half-rendered projections. Margaret spoke first, her voice flat, distant, echoing. You're in the archive now. The house knows everything you know. Hannah stepped forward, her hair drifting unnaturally. The story must end here. Dalton stepped protectively in front of Emily. We're not finishing anything. We're leaving. The writers shook their heads as one. Lucy whispered. No one leaves without an ending. Emily held the journal tightly. What happens if I don't write? The writers answered in unison. You stay. Dalton raised his voice. She's not writing anything. The archive floor trembled like thunder. The forgotten writers began to dissolve. Their forms turning into swirling black smoke. Dalton reached for his gun. Nothing. It dissolved too. Emily screamed. Sheriff! Look! The smoke didn't dissipate. It collapsed into itself, forming a shape. A giant one. A monstrous one. The shadow creature they had seen in Hannah's memory rose from the ground. Towering, faceless, limbs elongated like dripping ink. Dalton whispered. Oh hell! That's the thing that took them. The creature leaned toward Emily, head tilting like a curious animal. The voices of every forgotten writer spoke through it. Finish our story, or become part of it. And the creature lunged. Chapter 18, Breaking the Archive. Dalton acted first. He grabbed Emily's wrist and ran. The hallway twisted violently, walls stretching like elastic, photographs melting into the floor. Emily gasped. "I don't think there's a way out." Dalton gritted his teeth. "Then we make one." The creature thundered after them, limbs scraping the walls, each step shaking the entire archive. Emily opened the journal mid-run. Words formed as she flipped the page. "The archive records, but the archive can break." She read aloud, breathless. "Sheriff, it says we can break this place." Dalton yelled. "How?" Emily scanned frantically. Another line appeared. "Erase a memory." Dalton nearly tripped. "You want us to delete someone? That's insane." Emily shook her head violently. "No. Not a person. A memory the house depends on." Dalton shouted over the creature's rapid approach. "Which one?" The journal flipped on its own. To the very first photo. The first writer before Margaret. A name they'd never seen. A woman with no face. Emily touched the picture. It pulsed beneath her fingers. Dalton grabbed her wrist. "Emily, stop. We don't know what that does." She shook off his hand. "We don't have time." The creature was almost on them. Its limbs folding and unfolding grotesquely. Head tilting hungrily. Emily pressed her palm onto the picture. And the archive screamed. The photographs peeled from the walls. The floor cracked. Smoke erupted from the ceiling. The creature staggered, limbs convulsing. Dalton shielded Emily, shouting, "What did you do?" Emily cried out. "I erased the oldest memory. The first one the house ever kept." The creature roared, voice layered and tortured. 1,000 cries collapsing into one. Emily fell to her knees. Dalton knelt beside her. "Emily, you okay?" She nodded weakly. And the archive began to collapse. Photographs tore apart. Walls disintegrated. Memories shredded like paper in a storm. Dalton pulled her up. "We need to move." The collapsing hallway spit them out into a door. A single wooden door. Emily recognized it instantly. "The room," she whispered. Dalton shoved it open. Light burst through. They fell forward. Onto the floor of the McAllister house's upstairs hallway. They were back. The archive was gone. But the house wasn't finished. Not even close. Chapter 19, The House's Last Offer. Emily staggered to her feet. The house was shaking. Lights flickering violently. Floorboards cracking. Dalton leaned against the wall, panting. "Emily, the house is freaking out." Emily lifted the journal. A new message formed instantly. "Erase no more. Finish the story." Dalton snatched the journal from her hands. "No. No more. You don't give orders." He threw it down the hallway. The house screamed in rage. But Emily was staring at something else. Something horrifying. Dalton followed her gaze. And saw the walls. The faces inside the wallpaper were awake. Eyes open. Watching. Mouths moving without sound. Margaret Hale. Hannah McAllister. Lucy. and countless others. Dalton stepped in front of Emily again. "Stay behind me. Don't look at." But one face whispered audibly, "Hannah." "Emily, you have to finish it." Dalton shouted. "No, she doesn't." But Hannah whispered again, "I tried to fight it. But the house always wins." Emily trembled. Dalton grabbed her, voice low and fierce. "Emily, listen to me. We destroy the house. We don't complete its damn book." Emily nodded slowly, eyes filling with resolve. "How?" Dalton pointed downstairs. "The furnace." But before they could move, the house whispered softly, almost sweet, "Finish the story, Emily, and I will give back what I took." Emily froze. Dalton turned pale. What did it take? Emily didn't answer, because she realized the truth. She didn't remember her mother's face, her childhood birthdays, her first day of school, her grandmother's funeral. Pieces of her life were missing. The house already took them. Dalton growled, "Emily, listen to me. The house is lying." But the whisper continued, "Finish the story, and I will make you whole." Emily's eyes filled with tears. Her voice broke. "Sheriff, what if I can't live without what it took?" Dalton cupped her face, turning her toward him. "Emily, you're whole right now, because you're here, alive, fighting. And I'm not letting this house take anything else from you." Emily's breath shuddered. Dalton pointed toward the stairs. "We end this together." Emily tightened her grip on his hand. Together. They took one step toward the staircase. And the house screamed. The hallway floor split open. Shadow spilled out. And the creature rose again. Angrier. Hungrier. Unbound. The final confrontation had begun. Chapter 20, The House Unleashed. The floor split like a wound ripping open. Shadow poured upward, thick and writhing. Then solidified into the creature's towering form. A crooked amalgamation of every lost rider who had ever been swallowed by the house. It filled the hallway from floor to ceiling, limbs bending in impossible angles. Dalton shoved Emily behind him. "Go! Now!" Emily choked. "Sheriff, we can't outrun that." "We're not running. We're getting downstairs and burning this damn house to ash." The creature lunged. Dalton dragged Emily sideways as a massive arm slammed down where they had been standing. Splintering floorboards. Shattering framed photos. The shockwave knocking them against the wall. Emily gasped. "Sheriff, your leg." Dalton winced but stayed on his feet. "Not broken." "Move." The creature screeched. A layered, disharmonic sound. Made of overlapping human voices. Crying, whispering, begging. "Rai-yai." Dalton shouted back. "Go to hell." He grabbed a fallen lamp. Shoved it at the creature. Bought them 2 seconds. He and Emily sprinted toward the stairs. The house resisted. The railing snapped. Steps stretched and shrank. Gravity tilted sideways. Emily stumbled. Dalton caught her. But the force dragged them both down the staircase. In a half-controlled fall. They landed hard on the first floor. Dalton groaned. Emily shook, breath ragged. But they were alive. The creature slammed into the upstairs landing, cracking the banister. Emily yanked Dalton's arm. "Hurry! The furnace!" Dalton nodded, limping. "Straight to the basement. No stopping." They sprinted toward the kitchen. But the house had prepared for this. Cabinets flew open. Drawers launched silverware like arrows. The refrigerator door swung at them like a battering ram. Dalton shielded Emily, cursing under his breath. "It knows we're trying to destroy it." Emily ducked under a flying pot. "We need fire. Something it can't control." Dalton skidded across the tile, grabbing the emergency flashlight from the counter. "Basement. Now!" They slammed into the basement door. This time, it didn't lock. It opened willingly. Emily froze. "That's not good." Dalton gritted his teeth. "It wants us down there now." Emily trembled. "It's waiting." Dalton held her gaze. "Then we make sure it regrets it." They descended. Chapter 21, The Furnace Room. The basement was colder than before. A hollow, deathly cold. That settled into their bones. But deeper still was something worse. Silence. The house wasn't breathing here. Not groaning. Not whispering. It was listening. Emily crept behind Dalton as they reached the old furnace. A rusted beast from the 1940s. Still connected to the gas line. Dalton tried the valve. It twisted. Gas hissed. He nodded. "We can blow the house sky high." Emily tightened her grip on his sleeve. "What if it traps us here? Then we make sure the town never forgets us again." Emily swallowed tears. Dalton scanned the shelves for something to ignite the gas. Matches. A lighter. Anything. Nothing. The house had removed them. Dalton cursed. "It's forcing us to use something else, something dangerous." Emily's eyes widened. The journal. Dalton stared at her. "Emily, if we burn it, we burn everything inside it." She nodded. "That's the point. The writer's trapped there. They need release." Dalton ran a hand through his hair. "Emily, this might erase them completely." Emily's voice cracked. "It's better than leaving them here." Before Dalton could respond, a soft voice drifted behind them. "Emily." Emily froze. She turned slowly. Hannah stood at the bottom of the stairs. Her eyes empty. Her hair floating like she was underwater. Dalton whispered, "Oh no." Hannah stepped closer. "It hurts, Emily. Every memory the house took. It keeps inside me like broken glass." Emily reached out a trembling hand. "Hannah. I'm so sorry." Hannah smiled weakly. "You came back for me." Dalton raised a hand cautiously. "Emily. That is not fully her." Hannah turned her head sharply toward him. Her neck cracked. Her face shifted. First sad. Then blank. Then twisted with hate. "Sheriff Dalton." Her voice dropped 2 octaves. "You should have stayed away." Dalton pulled Emily behind him. The creature's shadow seeped into Hannah's feet, crawling upward like oil, fusing with her form. Her voice layered. "Rayai. Or Buren." Dalton whispered. "We choose burn." He turned the gas valve fully open. The furnace roared with invisible pressure. Warning gave way to instinct. Hannah leapt at them. Dalton pushed Emily aside as the possessed girl crashed into him, her strength inhuman. They slammed into the wall. Emily screamed. "Sheriff!" Dalton grunted, struggling. "Hit the furnace, Emily! Now!" But Hannah's body twisted. Bones snapping, reforming. Holding Dalton pinned. He shouted again. "Go!" Emily ran to the furnace. Pulled the journal from her jacket. Hands shaking violently. She hesitated. Just for one heartbeat. Hannah's real voice slipped through the monstrous chorus. Emily! Don't let me disappear!" Emily burst into tears. "I won't let you stay trapped either." She threw the journal into the furnace. The flames exploded instantly. Blue, then white. Igniting the gas line. Dalton tore free from Hannah's grip and tackled Emily to the floor. Down! Boom! The furnace detonated. The basement erupted in fire. The walls ignited. Pipes burst. Ceiling collapsed. Hannah's scream, both human and monstrous, echoed through the blaze. The house howled. The forgotten writers' voices screamed, sobbed, laughed, wailed, celebrated, as their prison finally burned. Dalton shielded Emily with his body as flames roared around them. "Emily, stay with me. Come on, do not pass out." Emily coughed, face buried against him. Did we kill it?" Dalton looked up. The fire surged through the hallway above. The house groaned and cracked. Walls fell inward. The light grew blinding. Dalton held Emily tighter. "I don't know. Just hold on." The house screamed one final time. And the world went white. Chapter 22, Ashes and Silence. Emily woke to the smell of wet earth. And nothing else. No jasmine. No rust. No cold breath whispering her name. Her eyes fluttered open. Above her, not a ceiling of groaning wood, but the dark early morning sky of Harpswell Ridge. Stars blurred by smoke and drifting ash. She coughed violently. Her body hurt everywhere. "Sheriff!" Dalton's voice answered immediately, strained, but alive. "I'm here, Emily. I got you. Don't move." He was kneeling beside her, one arm braced around her shoulders. His clothes were burnt, torn, streaked with soot. A cut bled down his temple. Emily managed a painful whisper. "The house." Dalton looked up. Emily followed his gaze slowly. Where the McAllister house once stood. The towering Victorian with its secrets and whispers. There was now only a collapsed skeleton of charred beams, still smoldering. A section of the roof lay twisted like an animal's ribcage. The staircase was nothing but black ash. The windows had melted. The walls had caved into a heap of smoldering ruin. It was gone. Completely. Emily felt tears sting her eyes. Not sadness. Relief. Dalton squeezed her hand. "We did it. The house is dead." Emily leaned into him, trembling. "Are you hurt?" Dalton winced. "Nothing serious." Emily looked at the rubble again. A flicker moved beneath the debris. A glowing amber spark. Dalton grabbed her arm. "Emily, don't go near that." But the spark died instantly, smothered under falling ash. Emily exhaled shakily. "It's over. It has to be. Dalton didn't fully agree. She could see it in his eyes. But he nodded anyway. Let's get out of here before the fire crews arrive. We were never inside this place. Emily frowned. You want to lie? Dalton answered softly. I want you safe. She lowered her head. Sheriff. Yes? Thank you. For not letting it take me. Dalton brushed ash from her hair. Emily, look at me. She did. You're the reason we survived. You broke the archive. You ended the cycle. Emily's eyes watered. And what about Hannah? Margaret? Lucy? The others? Dalton swallowed. I think, when the house burned, they were finally released. Emily wiped her tears. I hope so. But beneath her aching ribs, she felt something else. An unease, faint but sharp. Because she still heard something. Not loud. Not clear. But faint. A whisper far away. Like a memory fading slowly. Emily. She shuddered. Dalton helped her stand. We're leaving. Sun will be up soon. Together they walked away from the ruins. As fire sirens approached in the distance, neither looked back. But the house wasn't done with them. Not yet. Chapter 23, What the Town Remembers. By midday, Harpswell Ridge was buzzing with gossip. The McAllister house, the oldest home in town, completely destroyed in an unexplained fire. Some claimed lightning. Some suspected gas line failure. Some whispered the word cursed again for the first time in decades. But nobody accused Emily. Nobody questioned why she lived. Nobody remembered she was inside. Dalton wanted it that way. He filed no report of forced entry. No paranormal activity. No missing journal. No collapsed walls. Only one line. Electrical fire of unknown cause. Residents escaped unharmed. Emily stayed at Dalton's house that night. Too shaken to sleep alone. Still coughing from smoke. Dalton made tea, handed her a blanket, and lowered himself into the opposite couch. You don't have to talk, he said quietly. Just rest. Emily nodded, clutching the mug. But silence gnawed at her. The house was gone. Burned to nothing. So why did she still feel like something was watching her? She finally spoke. Sheriff, do you think the house was alive? Dalton hesitated, then nodded once. I think it was more than alive. I think it was ancient. Older than the town. Older than anything we've seen. Emily's voice wavered. Then how did burning it work? Dalton sipped his tea. Everything dies, Emily. Even old monsters. Even cursed houses. Emily looked down. But the unease remained. She whispered. What if? What if it survived in some way? Dalton shook his head. It burned to the ground. Emily swallowed. The journal burned too. Good. Yes, but I still feel like something's missing. Dalton frowned. Missing how? Emily placed a hand on her chest. I don't feel like myself. Dalton set his tea aside. That's trauma. It'll take time to feel normal. Emily shook her head. No. This is different. Something's gone. Dalton leaned forward. What did it take, Emily? She shut her eyes. and realized with dawning horror. She couldn't remember her grandmother's voice. Not the tone. Not the pitch. Not the warmth. Nothing. Her eyes welled instantly. Sheriff. It still has something of mine. Dalton reached for her hand. We'll figure it out. Whatever it took, we'll get it back. Emily whispered. What if we can't? He squeezed her hand gently. Then it dies with the house. And you move forward. Emily nodded slowly. She wanted to believe him. But that night, as they both tried to rest, the air in Dalton's living room shifted. Just slightly. Just enough. And the faintest scent of jasmine drifted through. Emily sat up instantly. But the scent vanished. She pressed a shaking hand against her mouth. It wasn't over. She could feel it deep inside. Something had crossed over. Something followed her out of the house. And it was waiting. Chapter 24, The Smell of Jasmine. Dalton slept lightly, the events of the past day keeping him alert. Around 3:17 a.m., he jolted awake. Not from a nightmare. From a sound. Soft. Slow. Coming from the hallway outside his guest room. Bare footsteps. Walking toward the living room. Dalton sat up, grabbing his handgun out of reflex. He left the light off. Listened. Step. 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 Then, a whisper. Emily. Dalton shot out of bed and burst into the hallway. His gun lowered instantly. Emily stood there. Hair messy. Eyes wide but empty. As though she'd been sleepwalking. Emily. Her lips trembled. The house. It's calling again. Dalton stepped closer. There is no house anymore. Emily shook her head hard. No. Not the house. A memory. Dalton frowned. Explain. Emily hugged herself tightly. The house said the archive remembers everything. When we broke it, some memories escaped. Dalton stiffened. You're saying part of that thing survived? Emily met his eyes, terrified. It wasn't just a house, Sheriff. It was a collector. A parasite. It moved between hosts. Between structures. Between writers. Dalton whispered. Emily, are you saying it could attach to a person? Her voice cracked. It already has. Dalton's blood ran cold. Emily. What did it attach to? Emily stepped into the dim hallway light. Her shadow behind her didn't move with her. Dalton's breath froze. Her shadow stood taller. Crooked. Watching him. Emily whispered. It didn't want the house. It wanted me. The shadow whispered through her voice. Finish the story. Dalton raised his gun instinctively. Emily, don't move. She fell to her knees, sobbing. Sheriff. Help me. I can't. I can't stop it. Dalton grabbed her arms. Emily. Listen to me. But the shadow wrapped itself around her, embracing her like a second skin, and whispered through her trembling lips. One more chapter. Dalton held her tightly as her body shook violently. The house had burned. But something far older had survived inside her. And it wasn't done. Not even close. Chapter 25, The Thing Wearing Emily. Dalton held Emily's shaking body against his chest. But the shadow wrapped around her was not letting go. It crawled over her shoulders, settling at the base of her neck. Like a brand, Emily choked out words that weren't hers. Finish the story, before it finishes you. Dalton's voice cracked with fury. You left the house. You have no power here. The shadow turned Emily's head slowly toward him. Her eyes blackened, void-like, then narrowed. The archive was never in the house. The house was only a shell. Dalton froze. Emily gasped between sobs. It was inside people all along. That's why it can survive when the house dies. Dalton backed up, horror tightening his throat. You're saying this thing can move between hosts? Emily nodded painfully. Her shadow elongated behind her. The ceiling lights flickered violently. Dalton holstered his gun, it was useless, and steadied her face in both hands. Emily, look at me. Not at me. Her lips trembled. I'm trying. But it's stronger outside the house. It's feeding off everything I've forgotten. Dalton's heart dropped. The creature wasn't weakening. It was evolving. Emily's shadow rose off the floor, towering behind her, like a monstrous puppet master. Dalton shouted, "Take me instead!" Emily's eyes widened, then turned black. The shadow laughed, a sickening layered sound. You are not a writer. You are ink. Expendable. Dalton lunged anyway, grabbed Emily, and yanked her into the living room. The shadow followed, sliding along walls, splitting into tendrils. Dalton dragged her toward the back door. Emily grabbed his wrist suddenly. Her voice broke through. Sheriff, it's not trying to kill us. Dalton stopped. What? Emily's breathing shook violently. It wants to finish one last story. Dalton stared. You don't owe it anything. Emily shook her head. It's not about owing. It's about ending. The house burned, Dalton. Every writer burned. Every memory burned. It has nowhere left to keep its stories. Dalton swallowed. So it wants you to become the new house? Emily looked up at him, tears streaming. Yes. The shadow burst across the ceiling, cracking the plaster, slamming down near Dalton's feet. He pulled her back. No. Not happening. Emily screamed. Run, Sheriff. No. I'm not leaving you. The shadow seized Dalton's leg, yanking him off his feet. Emily crawled toward him. She grabbed his hands. But the shadow pulled harder, dragging him toward the dark of the hallway. Dalton roared, kicking desperately. But the archive whispered in Emily's mind. If you try to save him, you both stay forever. Emily's entire body shook. Then she made a choice. She let go. Dalton screamed her name. Emily! As the shadow dragged him. But instead of surrendering him, she stood, faced the thing straight on, and screamed. You want a story? Then take mine. Everything stopped. The shadow froze. Dalton stopped sliding. The house fell silent. Emily stood alone in the center of the room, arms trembling but raised. Dalton panted, desperate. Emily, I know. but the creature surged toward her instead, leaving him, and wrapped her in total darkness. Dalton tried to stand but collapsed. The air vibrated with overlapping voices. Begin. Finish. Right. End us. End me. End yourself. The archive poured into Emily like liquid fire. Her mind blazed. Her vision shattered. And she saw everything. Chapter 26, Emily steps into the archive. In an instant, she was no longer in Dalton's living room. She stood in the archive again. But now it was burning. Memories tore themselves apart like paper. Faces screamed soundlessly. Names dissolved mid-syllable. The archive was dying, and trying to fuse with her. Before it collapsed, Emily staggered forward. No. I'm not your house. I'm not your writer. I'm your ending. The shadows convulsed uncontrollably. Margaret Hale stood at the far end, her face whole for the first time. Emily. Finish it, she said gently. Hannah appeared beside her. No longer hollow. No longer tortured. Her eyes were soft. Please. End this for all of us. Lucy stood between them, holding a charred pencil. You're the only one strong enough. Emily felt tears burning her face. How do I end something I don't understand? The archive voices answered as one. Erase. Everything. Emily shook her head. No. Not like the house did. Not by forgetting, but by releasing. She walked to the center of the burning hall. The shadows recoiled. Emily lifted her hands and spoke the final line. The one the house never allowed anyone to write. The story ends here. The memories belong to no one. And everything forgotten is free. The archive screamed. Not in anger. In relief. One by one, the faces on the walls smiled and dissolved into light. Margaret, Hannah, Lucy, every writer, all lifted gently, glowing brighter, smoke turning to stardust. The archive cracked, splintered, shattered, and the entire realm collapsed in a blinding burst of white. Emily felt weightless. Then nothing. Chapter 27, The Last Memory Returned. Emily opened her eyes. She was lying on Dalton's couch. Sunlight filtered through the blinds. Her chest rose and fell steadily. Her hands were clean. Her breath warm. Her shadow normal. Dalton sat beside her. Eyes red. Face exhausted. Emily. You're alive. She touched her chest. It's gone. Dalton swallowed hard. You did it. You finished it. Emily sat up slowly. Sheriff. I remember. Dalton frowned. Remember what? She smiled softly, tears rolling freely. My grandmother's voice. Dalton exhaled shakily. That's incredible. Emily nodded. And Hannah. I remember her laugh. Her birthday. Her favorite book. Dalton grinned. She's free now, Emily. They all are. Emily wiped her eyes. What about you? Dalton shrugged with a crooked smile. I'm exhausted, covered in soot, house nearly blew up. But yeah, I'm okay. Emily looked around. No shadows crawled on walls. No whisper lingered. No cold spots breathed. But when she looked at the window, the burned remains of the McAllister house stood silently in the distance. A place with nothing left inside it. Dalton asked gently, "Emily, what now?" Emily inhaled deeply. "Now, I tell the town the truth." Dalton blinked. "You're going to write the story?" Emily nodded. "Yes. But my version. Not the houses. Not the archives." She looked out the window with calm resolve. "No more forgotten writers." Dalton smiled softly. "Then this time, you'll write a story with an ending." Emily nodded. "And this time, the ending is mine." Dalton stood, offering his hand. "Breakfast?" Emily smiled. "Yeah. Breakfast." They walked out of the living room together. Behind them, for the first time in decades, Harpswell Ridge felt quiet. Not haunted. Not hungry. Just peaceful. The archive was gone. The curse ended. The house dead. And Emily Carter, the last chosen writer, finally free. Have a nice day. Thank you for watching.